Let's talk about the swim jig. A lot of people think that the swim jig, just because it's got a pointy head, it goes through grass, but it really does a good job in shallow cover as well, you know, shallow brush, laydowns. One thing that I like to do in the summertime, especially, you know, late summer, is to go out and find the shad. Find where the shad have had a good spawn, where they're hanging around a bank, or they might be moving back into a creek, and fishing, you know, fishing structure, because a lot of times late summer, it doesn't matter which lake you're on, those fish will get around that shallow cover, whether it be a lay down in the water or, you know, a little brush pile that's up shallow, you know, in 2 feet of water. A lot of people think brush piles, they think of fish that are, you know, fishing places that just have a lot of deep brush, but a lot of that stuff is laying around the bank, and those fish will get up tight to that cover late summer. So that swim jig is a really good bait to come up shallow with, to cover water with. You know, if you get a day where it's kind of calm, you don't have a lot of wind, you could pick the swim jig up, and it's a little bit more of a subtle bait. So, you know, it don't have that big vibration like a chatterbait or a spinnerbait, like, you know, like they have. So pick that swim jig up and toss it around. One other thing to look for is the shaded banks, especially this time of year. You know, when you're talking late summer, when it's getting hot, you know, find those shaded banks, because you've got a short window, you know, just the first few hours of the day where it's low light, and those good shaded banks are, you know, it's just opposite in the springtime. You're looking for those banks that had that sun on it for a little while, but look for those shaded banks, and that's usually where you're going to find the bait fish, and that's where you're going to find your fish.
Boom.
He crushed it. Swim jig. So there's two sizes of this Divine swim bait. It's the 3.8 and the 3.2. So if you want something that's a little bit smaller, you can always throw that 3.2 and then the 3.8 if you want a little bit bigger profile bait. But here's what's really cool about these swim jigs is that they put this spring on the shank of the hook, and it's really big and bulky, so it really holds that bait on there really good. So you can just, you get it lined up where you want it. So you can put your bait up there, get a line up, mark it where you're gonna pull it out of the bait, run it right through the end of it, make sure it's good and straight. Just like so. And then you're just gonna take it. Kinda gotta be careful that you don't tear your bait up. Just twist it around there. Just like so. Another pattern that's often overlooked in the late summer is shallow water fishing. Everybody thinks deep water whenever the, you know, late summer gets here and the water temperatures are so warm, but honestly it's just the opposite. Those fish, you know, they have to have oxygen, and they'll come up shallow again. Not every bass in a lake gets up in the creeks and up around docks, but even the deeper fish, you know, they'll sit out there and suspend. They have to come up. You know, if you're on a lake that's got a thermocline, they have to come up above it just so they can have oxygen. But one thing in the summertime that I like to do late summer is to come up and fish that swim jig up around docks. And one key thing that I look for is late summer especially, you'll see a lot of bait hanging around docks. And the higher the sun gets, the tighter those fish will get up to that cover. And the key is looking for those docks that's got bait around them. In this case, there's bait around every single dock that I've come to so far out here this morning. And it goes again, just like when you're fishing down the bank looking for those shady banks. You want to look for those shaded areas. So if you get on the back side of a dock that's got some shade, that's usually where you're going to find the bait, and that's where you're going to find the fish. One thing you'll notice about this 6 Sense Divine swim jig is it's got a really flat surface on the bottom. So it almost has that archy head style. It's pointed so it comes through that cover really good, but it's got that really flat surface on the back where it skips really good. So if you're up shallow fishing around docks, that jig will skip really good for you. Fishing around docks, fishing around laydowns. If you see a tree in the water this time of year, go throw at it, because chances are if the wind's blowing up on it, there's bait in it and the bass are going to be there. Divine Swim Jig from 6 Cents.